A beautiful morning at the Bronx Zoo suddenly turns into a nightmare. A scream tears through the quiet air, and a 500-pound gorilla breaks out of his enclosure. Visitors run in panic. Security guards raise tranquilizer rifles, and everyone prepares for the worst-case scenario. But in the midst of the chaos, a frail old man in a wheelchair does the unimaginable. He doesn't run. He moves straight toward the aggressive animal, holding out his hand as if to greet an old friend. Is this an act of madness, or the secret of a bond long forgotten? A July morning at the Bronx Zoo began with absolute peace. The golden sunlight filtered through the tree canopy, landing on the lush green lawns. The chirping of birds blended with the innocent laughter of children eating ice cream by the fountain. Families strolled leisurely, admiring the wonderful creatures from all over the world, enjoying a perfect summer day. The air was fresh and gentle, like a fairy tale painting just brought to life. But then, the painting shattered. A deafening, metallic S-series CH of tearing metal echoed, followed by the deadly sound of shattering glass. The sound was like a knife cutting through the stillness, startling everyone. An urgent announcement blared over the loudspeaker, the voice trembling to the point of distortion. Emergency alert.
This is an emergency.
All visitors, please evacuate immediately. Emergency alert. Something had escaped. From the gorilla's maximum security area, a huge black shadow burst out. It was Keto, a 500-pound silverback gorilla, his eyes blazing with fury. He wasn't walking, he was running, his heavy steps shaking the ground. A roar reverberated everywhere. Not a normal roar, but a primal scream of anger, frustration, and pure instinct. In an instant, the fairy tale collapsed completely. Chaos erupted. Screams echoed as people fled in disarray. Baby strollers were tipped over, ice cream splattering on the ground. Security guards, with grim faces and vigilant eyes, raised their tranquilizer rifles, preparing for the worst. Was there any way to prevent this tragedy without resorting to violence? The question hung in the air, heavy and palpable. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for an inevitable confrontation. However, in the midst of that wave of panic, one person was moving in the opposite direction. A man was moving toward Keto. Why would an 80-year-old man in a wheelchair choose to move toward the very danger everyone else was running from? That man was David Thoreau. He had been retired for 20 years, a name that had faded for the new generation of staff. His body was old and frail, but his deep blue eyes still sparkled with wisdom, holding a story spanning over 2 decades. David was more than just a former animal caretaker. He was the one who had found Keto when he was a baby gorilla, abandoned by his mother and nearly hopeless. In those first days, Keto was not the fierce animal everyone saw now. He was just a small, weak, and lonely black fur ball that needed the warmth of a human hand. David stayed up many nights to prepare milk, gently feeding him every spoonful. He held him in his arms when he was sick, stroking his soft fur to comfort him during stormy nights. The bond between them was not the relationship of a caregiver and a creature being cared for. It was a deep, unconditional love. David taught Keto to trust this world, showed him his first friendly gestures, and even whistled a unique melody that only the two of them knew. Every moment, every memory was etched into the minds of both. And now, when everyone considered Keto a threat, David saw the son he had once cherished in his arms. He felt no fear. On the contrary, he felt pain. He understood that Keto's roar was not a roar of aggression, but a scream of hurt and loneliness. While the security guards were still grappling with their orders, David slowly rolled his wheelchair toward Keto. The remaining visitors held their breath, watching him with terrified eyes. The wheelchair moved slowly, like an exclamation point in the chaotic scene. The moment David stopped, facing Keto, the air seemed to stand still. Keto, growling, immediately recognized him. He stopped, stood up on his hind legs, and beat his chest with a powerful rhythm, his massive body like a mountain ready to collapse. The security guards' fingers were on their triggers, holding their breath, and waiting for the animal's next move. A light flickered in David's eyes. There was no more panic from the crowd, no more blaring sirens. At that moment, it was just him and Keto, a private space created in the midst of the disaster. Could a small gesture neutralize a crisis that force couldn't solve? Facing the animal in an attack stance, David showed no fear. He slowly raised his right arm, palm up. It was a gesture only the two of them knew, an invitation to play that he had used to make Keto laugh when he was a crying infant. Then, he gently whistled a familiar tune, the one he often whistled for Keto when he bottle-fed him. In that instant, everything seemed to stop. Keto, just a few feet away, froze. His furious eyes stared at him, but then a strange change occurred. The animal took a deep breath, as if trying to recognize a familiar scent after so many years of separation. Memories flooded back. Images of an old man with a kind smile, gentle strokes, and meals fed by hand. The fiery look in Keto's eyes softened, the light of anger replaced by another, warmer, more nostalgic light. He bowed his head, beat his chest twice, not as a challenge, but as a sign of recognition. A deep rumble escaped his throat, no longer a furious roar, but a familiar, intimate sound. Tears streamed down David's wrinkled cheeks. In the midst of chaos and danger, he had found his old friend. He reached out, gently stroking Keto's huge head, talking to him like a long-lost son. "Daddy's here, son. You're home now, Keto." The security guards, veterinarians, and the crowd watching were all stunned, their eyes wide with disbelief. No one could believe what they were seeing. Keto, a gorilla who could kill a person with a single swipe, was as docile as a puppy, letting David pet him. They had been ready for a bloody confrontation, but what they received was a miraculous moment, a salvation born of love. All weapons were lowered, everyone just watched, moved to tears. Faced with a tense escape, the most miraculous solution wasn't found in force, but in a memory. Keto, as if he understood, obediently and trustingly followed David back to his enclosure. His gait was no longer heavy, but became light and calm, like a child following his father. No one had to use tranquilizer guns. No one had to scream or chase. The huge animal simply followed David, willingly, and not a single act of violence occurred. Before stepping back into his enclosure, Keto turned his head. His gaze toward David was not the blank stare of an animal, but one filled with affection, gratitude, and a deep bond. A brief moment, but it became a symbol for all who witnessed it. It was a moment when the animal spoke with his eyes, telling a story of love, trust, and loyalty. The story of Keto and David quickly spread across the world. It became the focus of international media, studied and analyzed by scientists and conservationists. The Bronx Zoo, following the incident, promptly changed its policy, allowing retired keepers with special bonds to continue visiting and interacting with the animals. This not only helped the animals feel safer and happier, but also opened a new door for research on the memory, emotions, and emotional attachment of primates. This story taught us a valuable lesson. Love can heal wounds, break down barriers, and create connections beyond human understanding. Keto was not a wild animal. He was simply a lost son, and he found his way home through the love of his father. So, what can a gorilla and an old man teach us about the very nature of love and fear? The story of Keto and David is a reminder that between primal instinct and fear, love is still the most powerful language. We often tend to solve problems with force, imposition, and barriers. But this story shows a different path, a path that goes through empathy, patience, and compassion. We have witnessed the incredible memory and deep emotional connection of gorillas. This is not just a strange phenomenon, but also a scientific proof that love is not a privilege reserved only for humans. It is a powerful biological force, capable of connecting all living creatures on this planet. Think about the people you love, the relationships you cherish. Love is not just something you feel, but something you express through actions, through listening, and through understanding. Just as David did not use a gun, but used love to solve the problem, we can do the same in our lives. It's a gentle solution, but it brings lasting results. If this story moved you, you are not alone. Let us know in the comments what you think about David and Keto's incredible bond. And if you are ready for more stories that will restore your faith in humanity, watch this video next. Thank you for joining us.